You, Wagwan, welcome back. So, as we all know, there's a lot of different opinions on dating advice, what women want, and even what guys think women want. So, in this video, there's gonna be public interviews of strangers, random people in New York City, and they're gonna be asking these people some dating questions. So we're gonna get a little bit of a gauge of how these people kind of view dating and relationships and what they think they want versus what they actually react to and actually want. So let's get right into it.
All right.
Wait, how old are you guys?
I'm
22.
Yeah, I'm 22.
22.
Yeah.
I see. Have you met a lot of bad boys or gentlemen in your life?
More gentlemen.
Gentlemen?
I think it's hard to categorize
I see.
certain guys because it's like they can be like gentlemen up front,
Yeah.
but then they can be doing shady
That's fair.
shit on the side.
I see. I
You know what I
see.
mean?
That's fair.
This is Noah. Nice to meet you. We met as of 30 seconds ago. We're talking about gentlemen versus bad boys. Do you have a particular type?
I prefer gentlemen's.
Do you think when you were younger you had a different?
I did actually, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like bad boys. Yeah, but it turns out it's not good. They're not good.
What is the attraction of bad boys, though?
I just think they really they give off the aura of that they don't necessarily care what people usually
see.
think of them,
Yeah.
and that's what's attractive about
I
it.
see. Do you guys find that attractive?
I don't know if I do.
Yeah,
I
they
feel
do.
like it's like one of those types of things where like girls would chase after guys that like don't give them enough attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like they're like, oh, you're not giving me
I
like your time. I'm just gonna like go after it.
So it's almost like a quest.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's
Like a
kind of the-
never-ending race.
It's
I
it's like
see.
it's like the chase.
Yeah, like realistically, what they're saying is pretty accurate. The girls in general like the bad boys, right? And before a girl decides she's gonna settle down with a nice guy or a good guy, they generally go after the assholes or the bad boys first. Now, not saying that because they're a bad boy or whatever that they actually do some really crazy things or actually kill people or whatever. You know, you may think bad boys do rob banks or whatever the fuck, but they go after guys that don't need them, that don't find, a sense of belonging within a woman. They go after the guys that have that self-confidence within themselves. And if she's there and she's just a part of it, that's what they like to go after. When a guy doesn't need them, they need the guy even more. They like that attention. They like the lack of, just overall validation that he's giving her. And she ends up chasing even more. When you come across women, or like I have this whole experience too. The inclination is to be, nice, cordial, because that's what a lot of us have been taught. That's what a lot of us has been trained from a kid to grow up and be. But at the same time, when we're growing up with that false sense of reality, and we actually try to apply those things as adults, it's cute as kids to be nice and kind and gentle and be like, oh my God, like he's such a cute baby, he's such a cute kid, oh, I want to help him and take care of him. But when you grow up and you're transitioning into adulthood, into actual dating, and into just the world in general, those same mindsets don't work. They're not applicable in the vast majority of situations because the whole dynamic flips. They don't want a guy that's gonna be super, super nice to them. Obviously, you want to treat them right, treat them good, whatever, but they don't want a guy that they can control. But their whole quest is to try to control you. And you, as the guy, have to be that guy that cannot be controlled. So it's a never-ending quest for her to try to change you and control you, which is their natural inclination. They want the guy that's uncontrollable and try to control him and domesticate him to be the one that takes care of her. And that's their whole general motive. So if you understand that and you move into an arena where you're just that guy that cannot be controlled by women, that you follow your own mind and you follow your own decision-making patterns, regardless of what they may think, regardless of how they may feel about it, they're going to look at you with a lot more respect and they're going to want your validation even more.
I feel like girls and guys like the chase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel like as a guy, it's necessary to be a certain type when you're, let's say, dating?
I'd say yeah, especially in New York City. I feel like there is an element of a game. Games are kind of weird because it's, you know, if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. So like you don't want to be with the people that only play games and just like really dick around. But at the same time, you have to show that you know your way around.
Do you think that you learn that, or it's just like naturally?
There's definitely some trial and error. In the beginning, you know, you just kind of go out, but then, you know, after a few wins and losses, you kind of learn how to up your game, strategize, and be a better player for the next round.
So we've been talking about how to play the game, why men play games, and how to
Make good impressions.
make good impressions.
Yeah. And underlying all that is effective communication. And that's where the sponsor of this video comes in.
Grammarly. Grammarly is a digital writing assistant.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Yep. Skip the ads.
You can try it. Grammarly Premium.
Come on, skip the ads.
For certain types of girls, it's like, oh, like if you're like giving me all this attention, like, and you're like being so sweet to me, no games. Like that will only like make them like them more. Whereas like some girls would really, really like to be treated like trash, basically.
Well, it depends on the stage of your life. You know, when you're in your teens, you're like, oh, that's so cool. Like I want to chase that. But then realistically in the real world, like where you are now, maybe a completely different scenario where it's not necessarily the best scenario for you.
So I was really attracted to the F-boys back in like undergrad, right? So I would just go for the emotionally unavailable guys. I love the game. I love the hot and coldness. I love like not knowing where this guy stood with me.
Why?
Because it was like, I wanted to win this game, and the thing I learned is you can't win. Like, if they're playing hot and cold, there's no winning. You're both losers at the end, because you're not going to end up together.
At 20.
All right, so I want to say like a few things about that whole dynamic, right? It's the same thing I just said earlier. Women like the chase. They like to chase a guy that does not bow down to them because they have that in abundance everywhere else, where most guys are trying to supplicate and validate themselves to her. But when she sees a guy that she's interested that is not doing that, that just flips the switch and it turns in her head like, all right, cool, I want this guy now. I want this guy even more. Why does this guy stand out and is different and doesn't see that much value or put me on a pedestal compared to the other guys? There must be something about him that I want. So when it comes to the whole hot and coldness, right? I personally think that there's different ways of like going about game and interacting with women. Obviously, hot and coldness is one way, right? And so that in a lot of ways can be viewed as the toxic behavior, toxic relationship in dating advice, etc., etc. Now, the thing is, I really don't give a fuck if it's toxic or positive, whatever it is. It works, and that's what women react to. But there's also other ways. So the more positive way that I generally like to go about and I generally personally promote is just being a man with your own set clear directions and own set clear boundaries. So it's like you're a train and you just make stops where you want to go. And if there happens to be, let's say, women at those stops, she can either hop on board or she can stay off the train. But regardless, your train is following your route, your train is going to its destination, and there's no stopping it once it leaves. If she misses the schedule and the deadline for the train, she might have to reroute and go to another stop, or she just misses it in general and you just move on. But obviously, the hot and cold is more of like, all right, cool, you're at the stop and you're opening and closing the doors. We're like, haha, you can't get in. And, you may not necessarily be leaving the station, but you're just teasing them to be like, okay, you're coming on this train or not. But when you try to come on, I'm just going to close the doors. But when you try to leave, I'm going to open it and be like, come back. That's the difference in the strategies and how you're going about that. Personally, like I said, the more positive frame is the one that is more long-term and sustainable for most guys to follow. So I generally recommend going that route.
2. What kind of boys are you looking to?
I'm actually in a relationship.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Is your boyfriend a gentleman?
he is a gentleman. I'd like to think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
What was his move to getting you?
Well, we met on Tinder, so it's not exactly the most,
All the
you know,
gentlemen's are
but
on
that's not
Tinder.
what I was looking for initially. But then you like meet them and you're like, oh,
Not that bad.
it was like not that bad.
There are wholesome gentlemen out there.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm happily single, not looking for anyone
not
right now.
looking.
If you were to recommend a strategy,
Cap.
then is there one?
So I don't necessarily think like playing the hot and cold game is a good way to go about it, just because, you know, if you're giving the girl mixed signals, she's going to give you mixed signals right back. So I think in a way it's just like playing the game in terms of like optimizing your life, where you're working on yourself. You're not just like simping over, being down bad and just, you know, giving her all your time. So like if you show that you have hobbies, you're like developing yourself professionally, if you're just working on yourself, then she'll notice that.
But what about
Very good advice. I like the same thing I mentioned earlier. This guy in the street is basically rephrasing it in the exact same concept. Just be a guy with your own set of boundaries, your own direction, and whoever comes on, whoever doesn't, and you just let it be.
about those guys who finish last and all they do is just pour their heart out to the girl? Is that unfair?
I think if that's all their efforts are towards pouring their heart out to the guy, I think that's a little too much. You can't just fully be doing that. You should have your own life outside of that. So I find it a turnoff if a guy's immediately like in love with me. I'm like, ooh, something seems off here.
Okay. Jason, do you have any questions that you want to follow up on?
I want to follow up on being the gentleman part, because I think John touched up on like the bad guy. What's the definition of a gentleman?
You go first.
A gentleman is someone who respects women, but he's also someone that respects his own time as much as her own. He's like, you know, equally loving to her as he is to.
So someone who's able to love themselves, but is able to give love.
Yeah.
I see. In your own words, what's a gentleman?
It's hard to describe because I've never met someone who's actually a gentleman.
I see.
But I guess they should be respecting.
Respecting.
Yeah. I want them to be a feminist. Like,
Oh no. Oh my god. We went so far downhill so quickly. Damn. She wants them to be a feminist. I've never met a gentleman, but I would like them to be a feminist. Realistically, if you're a guy, right? If you're a guy feminist, I can't respect that. And most people don't, even the women themselves don't respect male feminists. She's one of those examples where she's telling you what she may think she wants, but that's not what actually is attractive to her. She said, I don't think I've ever met a gentleman. So if she's never met a gentleman or a good guy, nice guy, whatever it is, that means she's only been with the other spectrum, the assholes, the bad guys. And so she's reacting to, all right, I want these types of guys. I want the gentleman that's a feminist, that's nice to me and respects me and puts me above all else. But she's never met one. And on the other spectrum, she's dealing with the other guys that arouse her, that make her attracted, and that she can have fun with. So this is an example of where this contradicting train of thought leads a lot of guys astray. Now, if you're a guy and you go and take this advice and you're supposedly a male feminist, watch how these interactions don't go in your favor. Watch how they end up putting you in the friend zone usually. Watch how you end up getting bitter and butthurt because you're following the program that they said they want, but is not actually what they respond to.
Feminists.
yeah.
Or like care about like women's feelings and their emotional needs.
For me, it's kind of like, oh, this person treats me really well. Like, I don't have to fight for his attention, and he like does things for me that are like really, really kind and like sweet. And I was like, oh, that's like so much easier. And like being out of college, most people are focused on their career and other things.
I would say gentleman for me is someone who's emotionally supportive, but is also self-aware. Again, similar to what Ryan said, like he has to have done some self-development on his own, has to have some kind of emotional maturity.
Yeah.
High EQ is very, very important.
I personally think after a lot of experience, people just learn to sort of mellow out. And as for me, being a gentleman just means being gentle person. And I think that's like a very simple way to go about.
I say I gravitate to someone with a really kind soul. That's what I look for. That's how I would best describe a gentleman.
So keep in mind the word gentleman. The first part of that word is gentle. Right? Obviously the second part is man. You have to be a man. But they want you to be a gentle man. The thing is, a lot of people only take the gentle part and magnify that beyond scopes of belief. And now they're too gentle, they're too soft, they're too plushy, they're too marshmallowy and moldy. Now they're not having that man component of the boundaries, of the structures, and of like the channeled aggression, the channeled assertiveness. And so the gentleman is just a gentle person instead of a well-rounded man, like a warrior that knows strength and battles and scars, etc., but is also able to show compassion, show kindness, and those things of that nature. So my perspective of a gentleman is obviously being the strong, firm boundary, whatever, right? I'm kind of butchering the words right now. But just a man with strong, firm boundaries, strength, assertiveness, dominance, and overall a direction in life, and also being able to show compassion and kindness and just a whole general caring for another person, regardless of what this other person may be doing. So I think that's about the end of the video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, remember to stay official. Peace.